Very good morning. Welcome to second day session. Today's agenda, OCT Live Step-by-Step Educational Program of OCT Guided PCA, Simple to Complex. As you all aware, angiogram is simple luminogram. It will not show the what is going inside the vessel wall. Intravascular imaging shows the pathology inside the vessel wall, like intima, what kind of deposit is there. Is it lipid deposit, or fibrous plaque, or calcific deposit? Similarly, suppose if some spontaneous dissection is there, the pathology is inside the media separating the intima and adventitia. So you know exactly what is the thickness of the plaque. You will also know when you are doing CTOs, are you subintimal tracking is there. Everything you can see very clearly, but you can't assess it with angiography. These are the disadvantages of the angiogram. So intravascular OCT, many studies have shown, including recent meta-analysis, there is significant reduction of stent thrombosis and MACE rate when image-guided versus angio-guided. That's the reason whenever you do the angioplasty, it is very, very essential to look inside and you are optimizing the stenting or not. If you are optimizing, outcome will be much better. With this brief introduction, today we have 6 live case transmissions from different parts of India. The first case will be transmitted from Commander Hospital, Bangalore. Operator Dr. Ajay Swami. Next case by Dr. K. Sharachandra. Is going to show one case of DK crash from Viranchi Hospital, Hyderabad. With this, I request all the attendees to post questions through QA box, and please try to keep mute on. So only whenever you are going to speak, that time unmute the button, and at the same time, so any questions, please post questions. We request you to have an interaction session with all the operators and expert panel members and moderators. The first session, Dr. Shailendra Singh is there, Dr. Vijay Kumar Reddy is there, and we are going to have Dr. YVC Reddy very soon. He is going to join, and Ajit Mullasari. This session will be moderated by one of the very well-known cardiologists from Vizag, Dr. Sujata Madam. Over to you, Madam. You can go ahead with your.
Good morning, everybody. As
you can say a few words.
Already talked about the objectives of this course. So we have a live academic feast. I think, sir, we'll go directly to the case. The first case is by Dr. Ajay Swami. Second case is by Dr. Sharachandra. And we have an expert panel comprising Dr. Mullasari, Ajit Mullasari, Dr. YVC Reddy, and Dr. Shailendra Singh. And we discuss as we go into the cases. The first case will be performed by Dr. Ajay Swami. And over to you, sir. Ravi, you can connect to Ajay Swami so we can discuss as we go along.
So good morning, everybody. And good morning, Dr. Sridhar. Good morning, Dr. Sujata. Wonderful to see all of you. Thank you, Dr. Sridhar, for this opportunity. We join you from Command Hospital, Bangalore. I hope I'm audible clearly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, madam. So today we are going to look at a case and use a combination of physiology and imaging to try and deliver what best result we can get. With me is my colleague, Wing Commander Rajiv Chauhan. He's my fellow cardiologist. Prema Mahesh, who is my cath nurse. My technicians, Adi, Sushil, and Rawat. And this is the team from Command Hospital. And of course, Jagdish, who's to help us with the technical support as far as the OCT imaging is concerned. He's going to help me show us some of the images. So over to you, Rajiv. You can just introduce the case.
We have today.
Can we have the first slide, please? Yeah. Next slide.
Next, please.
Sir, we can't see your slides.
Girish, we can't see the slide, he says.
Next.
Yeah, I think he's sharing the wrong. Yeah, that's one. That's the one you have to share. Excellent. So, you know, these are inescapable part of live case, the coordination between the 4 people who are there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Rajiv.
So we had a 54-year-old male without any comorbidities who presented with non-ST elevation MI on 14 March this year. His ECG had T-wave inversions in inferior leads, and his echocardiography showed an ejection fraction of 55% with inferior wall hypokinesia. His investigation in the form of hemogram and renal function tests were normal. So he was taken for a angiogram on 27 March. There was a significant disease in right coronary artery. PCI was done to right coronary artery in the same sitting. Next slide, please. He also had significant lesions in LAD and L6, which were planned for staged intervention. So now we are undergoing staged intervention today.
So I'm going to open the case now for discussion, and I'd like the moderator to look at these images and tell us what we can do and how we should be proceeding in this patient with an NSTMI, normal LV function, infarculated vessel, which we thought was the RCA based on the ECG, and the echo has been fixed. Now, what do we do about the other two? It's a large codominant circumflex with some intermediate disease in the proximal segment, and an ostial LAD and a mid LAD. Both seem to be, the mid LAD seems tighter in a cranial view. You don't have all the views, but the mid LAD is definitely tight. And there's a significant plaque in the ostial LAD.
So I would like the panel to address the issue as to which is the culprit. So why did you choose the right coronary as the culprit and not the LAD or the circumflex, Dr. Ajay Swami? And I would like the expert panel also to comment.
So I presented the data that the patient came with, that is with elevated troponins, T inversion 3 AVF, hypokinesia in the RCA territory, and a 99% lesion in the proximal to mid RCA. And the others were not subtotally occluded. They were flowing, as you can see, in tightest maybe about 70 to 80%. So that is why we fixed the RCA, and his symptoms have got relieved. So that was our approach initially. I hope that answers any other questions. I should be glad to answer.
So now you want to address the and would you want to do physiology? Would you want to do what is the physiology you're choosing? Are you choosing resting indices or are you choosing an FFR? So I also would like the panel to know what they would do in this situation.
Dr. Shailendra Singh. So, Dr. Vijay Kumar Reddy. Let me discuss.
Yeah, I think. What I think is probably it is important to assess the lesion in the ostium of the LAD also, because it looks tight. May require an intervention to both the ostium as well as mid LAD. Since the lesion in the mid LAD is tight, if you can do a pullback FFR, it will confirm our whether the proximal LAD also needs to be treated. Otherwise, even the OCT is going to give you the diameter of the vessel, the area of the vessel, and the area of the lesion. That will also help in deciding whether to put a stent in both proximal LAD as well as in the mid LAD. The circumflex also requires some physiological assessment. I think circumflex is a borderline lesion, and you need to do an FFR to decide whether you need to really intervene in the circumflex lesion or not.
I would like to draw attention to the panel that the non-culprit lesions do not do as well as even if the FFR is negative. So, Dr. Ajay Swami, are you planning to look at the plaque characteristics by imaging too? Like, are you looking at vulnerability apart from the physiologic significance of lesions? And could you guide us through what you've done?
So, I think that's a great question. And what Dr. Sujata says is absolutely right. Trying to evaluate non-culprit vessels with physiology at the time of the initial intervention is fraught with certain over and underestimations and problems with interpretation. The resting physiology seems to be slightly better because it's very, very difficult to interpret patients with large microvascular disease segments with the available FFR. So what our strategy is, normally we fix the culprit vessel and we come back. It means a little bit more an extra procedure, but that's what we've done for this patient also. He's actually been fixed about a week back and he's been on good treatment and we've brought him back to the table. Now, as far as the physiological assessment is concerned and the difference between the physiological and the morphological significance, again, it's a great point. There's been a lot of studies in the last 2-3 years which have suggested that even when physiology is negative, if the morphology of the lesion is malignant, then the event rate is likely to be high. The problem is, what do we do about such lesions is not very clear. If the physiology is negative and the lesions are unstable, or they have a thin cap fibroathyroma, we know that the events are high. But what to do about this is not very clear. Stenting may not be the right answer. Definitely, the imaging gives us an idea in a patient who has got a combination of a stenotic and a non-stenotic lesion as to what is the perfect landing zone and what is the correct area where we need to land our physiology. I hope that answers your question, Dr. Sujata. And the point made by Dr. Shailendra is also very, very valid, that when one is doing a complex lesion like this, the kind of information that imaging gives is invaluable to decide how to give the best result to our patient. But definitely physiology helps. And any other points that we need to address?
So we understood that you're going to do RFR from what you've said. So could you lead us through?
Yeah. So what we did, can we now see the angiogram? We'll just show what we did from the beginning. So this is, we have actually interrogated first the circumflex with physiology, because we need to do both. So this is how we've equalized the wire, just a cine to show that we've equalized it. Next. Then we have put it past, cleared it of contrast completely with flush, and first did the RFR. Can we see the PDPA, resting PDPA for the proximal circumflex? Are we able to see the physiology on the screen? Can we see the output?
Not yet.
Can we see the output of the OCT? OCT output, please.
Yeah, now it's available, sir.
All right. So this is the resting PDPA for the circumflex. Next, we did the RFR. So the RFR is also quite non-significant. Next, we did the FFR. So we have a, yeah, I know, yes, we did a pullback also. And you see that the pullback shows that there is a little bit of a step up, but it is not really significant. The RFR comes back to 1, and from 9.4, 9.5 to come back to 1. And it's a gradual step up, not a single sharp step up. So the whole proximal circumflex is diseased. And then subsequently, we did an FFR as well. Next. And the FFR was negative for the circumflex. So we have dealt with the circumflex and we can leave it alone. So any comments from the moderator or the panel for what we have done so far?
Your RFR was well above the controversial zone. So why did you choose to do FFR? And where is it that you would prefer? Even this, I would like the panel to address this question. Which situations you would use the FFR and which situations you would prefer the RFR? So Dr. Shailendra, Dr. YVC Reddy, Dr. Ajit.
The standard,
I think Dr. Ajay-Swami,
yeah.
So
the standard physiological test, the standard physiological test that one needs to do is FFR. Because RFR, if it is in the borderline zone, or RFR requires, again, you need to do an FFR for you to confirm whether you require to intervene or not. So I think the standard physiological test that one should depend would be FFR, because all borderline zones of IFR and RFR, you need to do an FFR to confirm.
Dr. Ajay-Swami, do you concur with this, or is there like what I presumed was that it is a focal stenosis, and FFR give more information rather than a diffuse disease, in which situation you have to use RFR? Dr. Ajay-Swami, what is your take?
I mean, it's a great point and a wonderful point for discussion. The thing about the FFR is it is validated across all anatomies, across all situations. Now, we get a lot of information from physiological interrogation of our lesions. In our lab, we are doing FFR and RFR together for the last year and a half, and we are building data to see which situation we need to use FFR, which situation we need to use RFR. The thing is, about 20% of patients, you get discordant results, but at extremes of RFR, the correlation is extremely good. So if one does an RFR and one gets an RFR of less than 0.87, That means 8.6 or less, there is no need to do an FFR. It's going to be positive. And if one does an RFR, and if the RFR is 0.93 or more, again, there is not much need to do an FFR. The FFR is going to be negative. The problem is in between these two ranges. And in our lab, in every patient who comes with this borderline kind of a reading on the RFR, we are going ahead and doing the FFR to decide whether to intervene in the lesion or not. This is a discussion that is half an hour or 2 minutes only. So since we don't have half an hour, we'll finish in 2 minutes. There's no doubt that the subset of patients and the quality of follow-up in the FAME studies was extremely good. They interrogated every lesion. They actually looked at physiological significance and followed them up for results to show that it is safe to defer the angioplasty. What has been shown in the resting indices study is that it is safe to defer. They are not the same question. What we are building in our lab is experience in the quality of the data that we get from the RFR, so that we are able to get. Since you get about these 20% of discordant results, which are usually in the left main and the proximal LAD, left main is actually not validated for resting indices at all. Proximal LAD is the problem where you get the maximum amount of discordant results, and we are building a little bit of data. Now, OCT has added a little more dimension. And in fact, in our lab, we have done one study in which we looked at just the proximal LAD only, from the ostral LAD up to the first septal or up to the first diagonal, and looked at what MLA correlates with a significant FFR. Our cutoff only for the proximal LAD is about 2.2. When it is 2.2 or less in the proximal LAD, it almost always correlates with a significant FFR. When it is more than that, then it is not really required. You can actually defer based on, there are some situations where it may not be so easy to do an FFR. In this particular patient, now that we have sorted the circumflex out, what do you think we should do for the LAD? Dr. Sujata, you're muted. Dr. Sujata, you're muted.
Sir, already you have interrogated the LAD also, I think. And I have a feeling Dr. Shailendra Singh has already said it would be significant, and he felt even the mid and the ostial LAD are significant. Sir, Dr. Shailendra Singh?
Yeah, I think I agree with whatever Dr. Ajay Swami said. Only thing I am a little concerned about using RFR only to use decision to intervene would be no long-term results. FFR, at least you have 5-year results. And we are looking at what is the MI rate if FFR is positive in a patient if you have left alone the lesion. Therefore, medical management nowadays is also excellent. So the medical management being excellent, should all these patients with borderline lesions use only RFR, or at present you should use both FFR and RFR before you decide to intervene? That's my question, which I would like the panel to answer.
Yeah, completely agree, Dr. Shailendra. That's the question we are trying to answer. That is the question we are trying to answer over the last 2 years, and we are building data. By the end of this year, we will have enough data to decide. Our hypothesis is this, that when you have less than 8.6, the FFR will always be 8.7, the FFR will always be positive. When the RFR is more than 9.3, the FFR will always be negative. So we are just going to build data, and we'll present you data at the end of 1 year. But so far, it has correlated extremely well with our hypothesis. And we have, in fact, not had a single patient or a single reading which has deviated from these values. But we'll present data at the end of this year. And I have done both in this situation only to show that it correlates. Otherwise, usually FFR is not required. When you have a very, very high PDPA oblique and RFR.
Sir, I think we'll proceed. We'll run short of time. That's the actual
So we'll
case.
quickly show you what we did for the LAD as well. Next. Can we see the next angiogram? Next angiogram? Yeah. That was a circumflex. Next. So then we have interrogated the LAD as well. Next. That's the fluoro. Yeah. So we've interrogated the LAD as well. And the LAD RFR is 0.85. So next thing we're going to do, if you look at the mid LAD segment, that part is a little tight. So I think we will have to get some clearance before we're able to deliver the OCT catheter. And that's what we're going to do, a small balloon dilatation, because that part in any case has to be fixed. Then after that, we will do an OCT. In the meanwhile, maybe you could go to Dr. Sharath if he's ready. We'll finish the OCT and come back to you with the images. Is that okay, Dr. Sridhar?
One question we
Ravi,
want
just
like
find out once. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
meanwhile
please
you
go.
can,
Let me check, sir.
Dr. Ajay, meanwhile you can continue FFR and OCT. You have
Right,
45 minutes time.
No problem.
And we'll see the how the FFR is. You said 0.85.
Yeah.
Even we are also publishing one FFR study. Almost we studied 260 patients. So our observation, if the resting FFR less than 0.87, most adenosine induced will be positive. That is almost positive predictive value, almost 90%.
Yeah,
So most of the
absolutely.
time, if the resting FFR, not that FFR with the resting, not like a RFR, just a resting value, if it is more than 0.94, very unlikely adenosine-induced FFR will be positive. But even when we have correlated, if it is less than 0.86, without any addition, without any NTG injection, most of the time it will be hyperemia will be hyperemic induced test will be positive. That is our observation. And FFR in this case really valuable because even 90% lesions also now the recommendation they have included even up to 90% lesions to be interrogated with FFR because 70 to 90% lesions also 15 to 20% negative. That's the reason if it only positive, there is a significant MACE reduction is because RFR is positive and OCT value to see the main luminal area where there is a asymmetrical size mismatch like a proximally tight lesion in between some ectatic or aneurysmal segment and again one more lesion and see the luminal areas and based upon that where to land exactly landing zones you can decide. I think it's a great case to see the value of FFR and imaging. It's a very nice case, a very good case for combination of FFR and OCT.
Thank you, sir. So, yeah.
Why didn't you pull back to consider which lesion is contributing to your to the to the lesion significance? So you did a pullback in the circumflex. You're not doing a pullback in the LAD, Dr. Ajay.
Yeah, the reason is that angiographically the mid LAD is extremely tight, and I have no doubt that this lesion will need to be fixed, and that is borne out by our physiology as well. I have not pulled out my physiology wire. I'm going to fix this, do the OCT, and then look at the morphology. If the morphology in the ostial proximal, just call out. If the morphology in the ostial proximal LAD is malignant and the MLA is small, you can see that the balloon is actually melon seeding a little bit. Yeah. So let's go up a little bit slowly, just about 6 atmospheres. Now this is a 2.515. I'm just making space for my OCT catheter. 4, 5, 6, 7.
So what do you mean by malignant, Dr. Ajay?
Thin fibroateroma. If one looks at data which was presented in last year's, yeah, that's great. In last year's TCT, they have shown that in patients who are FFR negative and who have got thin cap fibroateroma, their event rates are higher than those who were FFR positive and underwent intervention. In fact, they were the highest in the quartiles. So it appears that the morphology of the lesion is probably a greater predictor. Now, unfortunately, the vessel has not read the book, and you often have combination of both these morphologies in the same patient. He has an obstruction in one place and a thin cap fibroateroma in other. And we still don't yet have perfect answers for this situation. But before we make a decision, I would like all the information available. No, first I want the
Ajay, Dr. Ajay, sorry to interrupt.
Yes, sir.
We will go to Sharath lab and we'll come back. Meanwhile, you come finish the OCT.
I'm using a guideliner to deliver the OCT because, if you see that the left main is extremely short and it may not be so easy to get clearance with the conventional guides. So I'm going to position the guideliner at the ostium so that I can, get a good clearance and a good imaging of the ostial LAD. Please go ahead to Dr.
Then demonstrate that's fine because Ajay, you can demonstrate that. Many people, they don't know how to use the guideliner for OCT. And after that, we'll go to the Sharath's lab.
So this is our guideliner catheter, and I'm going to position it within the guide And then I will deliver the OCT catheter through that into the FED and then bring my guideliner to the place where we need to.
Sure.
Our heparin is complete. Excellent. Very nice. Just keep a track of the time, please.
Dr. Sridhar Kasturi was yesterday mentioning about the malignant characteristics of lesion on OCT. Sir, the people wanted to know what MLA and what, apart from thin cap fibroadenoma yesterday, you were
Flash
speaking
service,
about the lipid
connected.
plaque
Yes,
and
just
the
see the
fibro.
connection. I'll let it come.
I mean the lipid plaque, how much it is, more than 180 degrees, presence of macrophages.
Yeah,
he
this
must be
is mainly
recording it.
based upon the force and climas, where the predictors of event rate, even the clima study as well as the forza, where they have taken high risk features. Like if indirectly it's they have pointed out the high inflammatory features, particularly large lipid core, thin cap fibroatheромata, and luminal area less than 3.5 square mm. And if they are having cholesterol crystals and even a small, like a spotty calcification. And when these features are there, large lipid core with thin cap fiber, the chance of rupture is more likely. So they guided angio versus OCT guided angioplasty. Surprisingly, they found extremely good results. So it's a very short-term study, but it has to be very, number is very, it has to be tested in a randomized trial. But for the trial, suppose if you don't have an FFR, if you find these high-risk features, you can also use it based upon this study to prevent the MACE rate, to reduce the MACE rate. And regarding the functional evaluation with OCT, almost a dozen of studies are there. Somebody pointed like a 2.5 square mm, 3 square mm, and 2.75. And one study showed it's about predictor is 1.75 to 2 square mm. So there is no clear-cut demarcation saying that this is the value where FFR becomes negative or FFR becomes positive. But all studies have shown if it is less than 2 square mm, definitely it would be positive. But that kind of correlation is very well seen with left main. Left main less than 4.5 square mm. And South Asians, definitely, I was guided, it's less. And that when you are taking the OCT, it has to be 10 to 15% smaller compared to IVAS parameters. So IVAS parameter, they have considered European Society of Cardiology, 4.5 square mm. So when you are taking the OCT, if you reduce it 10 to 15%, almost you should consider as a 4 square mm. Whereas Americans or European population, it's about 6 square mm. IVAS cutoff area. Though functionally, it's a well matching in left main. Suppose in left main case where you can't do the FFR, even you can take the IVAS MLA and you can decide whether patient needs stenting or not. Between 4.5 square mm to 6 square mm, it has to be evaluated with the FFR. If FFR positive, do. FFR negative, don't do it. If more than 6 square mm, don't do it. So less than 4.5 square mm, you can go ahead with the stenting. 4.5 to 6, you do the FFR. FFR positive, do the stenting. If it is negative, no need to do. But more than square, you can defer straight away. But that kind of correlation is not there with the non-left main bifurcation lesions or non-left main lesions. In such cases, only thing is if it is very critical lesions like less than 2 square mm, almost always it would be positive. But you can't say what is the cutoff point. But different studies quoted different areas ranging from 2.7 square mm to 1 square mm.
Ravi, are we going on to the next lab?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
is there any problem in going to the
Yeah, you
next?
can switch over.
We can switch.
Yeah.
Kiran, can you please switch to Dr. Sharat Chandra's lab, please?
Pressures are okay. I pull the guideliner back. I think that's good. Diagonal mein chalega instead of LED. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Ravi,
So
is
let us
Dr. Reddy in? So he could comment on meanwhile as we switch to the other lab. Dr. Reddy could comment on, Dr. YVC Reddy could comment on what Dr. Sridhar Kasturi has said about the OCT FFR correlations, how do you decide this lesion is one? Okay, we are back with Dr. Sarath Chandra. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Dr. Sujata.
Very good morning,
And,
Dr. Sharath.
Sridhar,
Very nice
Shailendra,
to
so
see
many friends. Yeah, here our problems have become a little more basic. We wanted to, anyway, let me just, Dr. Siddharth, my junior colleague, Kemi and Kiran. And Dr. Siddharth, would you like to tell them about the case?
She's a 69-year-old lady, a known hypertensive. She presented with chief complaint of chest pain and breathlessness lasting for 3 days. On her ECG, it was like eval anterior MI, and her echo showed RWMA involving anterior wall and with EF of 45%.
Sridhar, you could hear, no? What Dr.
Yeah, absolutely fine.
Yeah. So basically, she's one of those relatively weak-looking patients. Here, she's non-diabetic, hypertensive, and Kemi, take this. So, can you show the ECG? Show those slides. Binav, show those slides. Show those presentation slides. Abhinav, show those presentation slides. ECG. Yes, that is the ECG. She was not given thrombolytic therapy, nor was she subjected to any angiogram at that point of time. She was at home and slowly she came here, and this shows deep T inversions suggestive of recent anterior MI. And yeah, the echo, next one. Next slide. Yeah, her ejection fraction is 45. She was not in heart failure after she came. She's otherwise good. Next slide. Yeah, run it, please. Run it. Yeah, right coronary doesn't have any significant disease. Next slide. Just run it in the same way. Yeah. Yeah, next. Keep running it. Go further. Next. Abhinav, can you further drag it? Yeah. Yeah, this is the left coronary. Again, left main is normal. The circumflex is normal. Basically, what you have is a mid-LAD complete occlusion, near complete occlusion. And there is a large diagonal, which is coming just at the, just a little below the total occlusion. No, go back a little. Go back a little. No, a little before this. Go back. Yeah, yeah, I think it's okay. We will show from the present views. Come here. Abhinav, can you show from the present views? So yeah. It took a little effort to engage the guiding catheter. Therefore, we put a wire into the circ and then engaged it. You can see here, there is a sizable diagonal with a very critical osteal diagonal lesion extending beyond 10 millimeters easily, you can say. Now, next one. Yeah, you can see here that the diagonal is a large vessel with 90% plus lesion in the diagonal. And there is a near total occlusion in the LAD. So what would be the, feelings, or what strategy would you suggest? Dr. Sujata, Shailendra, anybody would like to give an opinion?
Even YVC Reddy is also there, now joined.
Yeah.
Morning.
Yeah. Hello, YVC Reddy.
Morning.
I saw you were YouTuber somewhere, the robo. Very good to see that. Yeah.
Good morning, sir. Yeah.
Morning. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is there any other view for this in the epicranial or something? Because
yeah, this is no, we took
RAO, yeah?
because we knew this case is going to take a lot of contrast. So in an effort to save that,
Okay,
we
yeah.
just did limited views. Already we have completed 100 ml. So
Okay.
yeah, she's only 56 kilos in weight. So what would be your strategy?
One option is because this diagonal is good size and would need some treatment as well.
Yeah.
So, and this is the tapering of LAD, the disease starts well before the septal and diagonal as well.
Yeah.
So you are looking at a treatment before the two branches, septal and diagonal, and you have to cross over. So one option, anyway, you have to wire both. You can think of crossover stenting and then do the provisional for diagonal. With the plain balloon itself, you can probably manage. If it is not giving a decent result, then you have to convert either into provisional stenting for the side branch after the crossover main vessel stent. If you are planning a DK crush-like thing with the side branch first, also is an option, but I would simply do a crossover with a wire plain balloon for the diagonal first, then tackle the main vessel with a stent, and then see how the results are. Provisional stenting would be my approach. What do you think, sir? What is your plan?
Yeah, I would like to listen to other panelists also.
Dr. Shailendra Singh, sir, are you there?
Yeah, it is Medina 011 class.
Dr. Vijay Kumar Reddy, yeah, you can.
It is Medina 011 class with angulation of less than 70. One of the option is mini crush also we can do because the angulation is and the vessel is 2.5 and there is a lesion of the ostial is more than 10 mm, and I think definitely he needs two-stent strategy.
Okay. What is Sridhar's opinion?
My opinion, I agree with YBC because straight away I will go with the provisional stenting and see with the jail wire, check angio, and subsequently, if needed, a small SKS, then do the part and come out. And at the same time, you are going to do the imaging. There is a significant plaque burden proximally. I think you have to extend up to
proximal LAD.
15.
It's diseased right from the beginning.
Significant plaque burden from the beginning. So imaging assessment, see the clear landing zones, and we will also see what is the etiology of the MI. Is it like a plaque fracture? Is there a large lipid probe? What I would anticipate, because it's looking like a large lipid atheroma. If you do the OCT, definitely, most likely it's a plaque fracture with a large lipid core. And I would also anticipate slow flow, no flow after the, once you open also, that kind of complications we can anticipate in such type of patient.
It has all the features of a complex lesion by what they call the definition criteria. The angle is not very big. It's somewhere in between, and there will be a lot of thrombotic burden. The lesion length in the side branch is fairly long and critical lesion. So you can call it a complex lesion. What we actually thought we will do a DK crush, as I spoke to you yesterday. Can you go to the next slide? Next one, yeah. We tried a lot to wire the diagonal so as to do a DK crush.
Diagonal.
Sorry?
It's a very big diagonal.
Yeah, it's a big diagonal. But you know, the wire where you see has not gone into the biggest branch of it. So we tried multiple wires, and next one. We are not able to.
Are you using a micro?
No, in this case, we did not try the microcatheter. This lab doesn't have it either. I didn't actually foresee. If I had foreseen, I thought this would be fairly easy to get inside that. I have not still given up, but then we spent a considerable time, almost 47 minutes of heparin time. Next one. Yeah, next. Now, so now what I have done, no, go back. What I have done is, patient also is getting little restless. I have now crossed into the distal LAD, leaving that diagonal to be tackled a little later. And with a balloon support, the wire has gone down. And so what we will do, we will just give a dilatation here and then see the result of the distal vessel. And then we will again attempt it as you will be going to Dr. Ajay Swami. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
One second. Okay, you dilate here and see. 10. Yep. And be ready to deflate. Yeah. Deflate. No. Show me the wire tip. Okay. Small test. Just give a small turn to this. Yeah, I think it has moved a little bit. Inflate it, please. Okay. Deflate.
So meanwhile, could you tell us what wires you have used for the
Yeah,
wires?
we used a Whisper most of the time. Also tried with a BMW Whisper with multiple bends. You have any suggestion? Just give a small taste.
The panel, Dr. Vavis Reddy, would you use the CTO wires? Would you use a filter? Would you use a microcatheter? Could you elaborate?
This is a acute MI from the history. I would use a simple wire, workhorse wire, which you are familiar with. I would use a BMW, maybe a fine cross. I would not hesitate to use if there is a resistance difficulty. But here I can see that the balloon is not crossing, anticipated because of a gross tortuosity at the lesion. It is a
no, this is the LED we are now trying. We have not got into the the diagonal. We actually kind of temporarily postponed our attempts.
This has not crossed the lesion, no, sir. It is still stuck proximal to the lesion because of the tortuosity there.
Yeah, now inflate it again.
CTO, it is not crossed it.
Yeah,
so we were asking the diagonal, sir, has not been able
diagonal, of course. We because there was a difficulty. I think we can hold on to the diagonal for now. Do the LED, get a good result,
what
and then
pressure you
enter
went?
the struts.
Good 14.
Sir, if sir stents across, he's not able to wire, then the diagonal closes will bigger problem.
Deflate.
So my question is, would you use some other wire to wire the diagonal so that we would be able to handle it closes?
No, actually,
I would also follow what Dr. Sharath has done. Some attempts not crossing, I would not worry about it because in the days of primary, you have seen a vessel before, you know where it is. Even if it closes after the LED stenting, you can easily enter it. So you have seen it closing before you rise.
Dr. Sharath,
yeah.
What are your strategies to enter difficult diagonal wiring?
You know, this initially, I did not feel it would be a challenge in this case. Give some saline to this, flush this with saline. There's a thrombotic lesion. So I went with a Whisper wire. I used multiple angles. Now that, let me see the OCT picture of this LED. And then we will again go in with another wire. Maybe I will take a Fielder XT. I'm not in favor of using a stiff wire in this. It's the problem here is one of tortuosity, not really any difficulty, any critical occlusion there. It is crossing the critical part of it. It's probably due to a bend. So one of these wires, which are, typically even yesterday evening, we had a patient in whom we had a total occlusion, acute MI presentation. And what basically worked, we could not wire the PDA, which is a very big vessel. Then I put a provisional stent. Then I put a stent across into the PLV, which we crossed easily. Then we could recross the PDA. So in this case, since I spent considerable time and contrast on this, probably now I will go with a stenting of the LED, and then once again come back and attempt the side branch. I will keep a wire in the side branch, not exactly in the correct branch which I want to get in, but in one of those branches.
What is the role of the supercross angulated microcatheter in this scenario?
Yeah, that might be a good idea. That might be a good idea. A microcatheter which you go across and then try with.
This supercross angulated 90 degrees angulated wire, it will direct the wire,
into that. Yeah. I agree with you. That could be a good idea.
This is a case ideal for supercross because you have a 90 degrees, 120 degrees, and 45 degrees. You can choose the angle.
Takes an NTG.
And it's even dual lumen catheter is there, Crusade or Sasuke. That also you can go to the advance over the branch and redirect into the another one using another wire. But here, because the acute MI already totally occluded, I think provisionally you can keep the jailed wire and as he is thinking, go with the first you save the LAD and subsequently recross using the dual lumen catheter or supercross and then access the side branch and then T-tap you can go ahead. If you are not straight away accessing the side branch, if you are able to access side branch nicely, put the DK crush like a stent, crush it, and that is also very good shot because the DK crush results are far more superior compared to mini crush or any other two techniques, including
like a relatively
recent study showed better than the provisional.
Not only there.
In complex.
Will this? Can we do this and see? Sridhar, what we will do? I suggest you go back to Ajay. In the meantime,
we'll go to Ajay and we'll come back.
Yeah.
Ravi, you can switch over. Ravi?
Sure, sir.
This is 1.5. It's a little bigger. Yeah. Yeah. Flow is also not up to the mark. Give me a 2 millimeter balloon. Chala difficulty undi andulo cheyadaniki. 2 should be enough, no? Or you want to go to 2.5 also, we can go. Huh? You do one thing, you take a 2.5.
Happily walking through, so no problem.
Dr. Ajay,
Ajay, we are with you.
Okay, sir. Can we see the angiogram?
Yeah.
Say the last fluoro.
No. Yeah, we can see.
So what will Jagdish can come back? Achha. So what we did, I'll just finish this balloon dilatation and come back to you for a moment. My patient has got a little bit of chest pain. So let's dilate this, go to 12 atmospheres. Jagdish, shall we see the... Very nice. Deflate. One more.
Doctor, the panel.
So what we have done after we left you was that we have done a small balloon dilatation and then an OCT. And we're just going to show you the OCT images and what it told us. Go up again, 12 atmospheres here. Excellent. Deflate. Deflate again. All right, so let's look at the OCT. The first OCT that we'll see is what we did from the LAD pullback. I don't know if you can see the OCT on the screen.
Yeah, able to see.
All right, so let's just run it and see. Run it. Remember, this is after a small balloon dilatation in that mid-LAD segment to allow our contrast to reach. So we'll just let it run once and then we'll allow the panel to comment. This is that ectatic segment in between. And since we didn't get good enough clearance in the ostial LAD, we just took another short run that also will show you only for the ostial LAD. So have we seen this distal lesion? Can I switch to the next
distal lesion? No, we are able to see very
just play it once more from 20 back. Yeah, play it from here. That's right. Play it from here. Play Jagdish. Let it run. So as you can see, this part appears to be, I'd like the comments of the
Dr. Sridhar.
There is a significant fibrocalcific lesion and the area of tight narrowing is having almost very significant calcium and thick fibrosis also there. And beyond, proximal to the lesion, nicely, that almost area, it's a triluminar only, trilayered only, that is a 12 square mm. That means you have to restrict stent only to that disease segment. Don't extend into, because this area is extremely good.
So
Yeah,
that's where we thought we will land it, because the distal size that we got is about a 275.
Yeah.
Now, if you take a 275 distally, it will be very difficult to blow it up very large, because this is a 4.5 diameter ectatic segment.
Proximally, yeah.
Now, next look at the next OCT. We just looked at the ostial LAD separately, because there's a significant, there looks like a lesion there also. And we will just see this, which we have restricted. This view was only for the ostial LAD. This we used with the guideliner. And this is where the dissection was, and this is our fibrocalcific lesion.
Proximally very tight.
Segment.
Calcific.
Yeah, ectatic segment here. And I'd like the comments of the house on this particular segment before it breaks up into the left main. Yeah, that's the left main, and that's the bifurcation. That's the ostial LAD.
I personally feel 2 short stents would be sufficient, because avoid that in between ectatic segment, that focal stenting of the ostium of the LAD using 9 or 10 mm, and cover the leave that middle portion, that ectatic segment. I think that would be the right strategy, because you have a almost 10 mm length. Otherwise, you extend total, taking the distal segment with 2.5 upsize it, and proximally you go with a 3 or 3.5 and upsize it. That's better.
Any other opinions amongst the house?
Are we stenting across the left main? The panel, Dr. Reddy can comment. Dr. Shailendra.
I think
my question out of the box is, do we need to stent the ostial LAD?
Yeah.
Suppose we do only the tight segment. You see, our FFR, RFR was 0.86 beyond the distal lesion. I still have my physiology wire across.
Yeah, you do the, what you thought earlier, that you do the distal stenting, do the FFR. If the FFR is negative, leave the proximal one. But FFR still positive, focal segment, what I recommend focal segment of the ostial LAD.
So if
Dr.
FFR
having your
LAD, sir?
If there is a significant
you can
provoking question.
Sorry, I didn't see the case details before, nor the angiogram.
Yeah.
So I will refrain till I get some idea about the case.
There are 2 lesions, osteoproximal LAD lesion and a middle LAD lesion in between ectatic segment. That is about almost 4 mm diameter.
If I'm,
So it's actually 4.5 millimeter in the ectatic segment.
Okay. That one baseline angio can be replayed. My apologies for not being there in the starting.
Minus kar de, switch to the angiogram. Dr. Shailendra, in the meanwhile, you have seen the baseline angio. Just show me the diagnostic. Minus. I'll show you what we did.
Dr. Shailendra Singh?
Yeah, I think the strategy should be first to stent the distal lesion, the middle LAD lesion, and then repeat an FFR, because it looks that ostium is involved, true ostium of the LAD is involved. And if you have to stent the proximal LAD, it is better to put a crossover stent from the left main to the LAD. So if it, I think we should do it only if it is really required. So better to do the mid LAD and then do an FFR, repeat an FFR. And if the FFR is negative, leave the proximal ostial LAD lesion alone. I don't know about the morphology of the lesion. We have seen it's a fibrocalcific lesion, fibrous lesion. And there's not much.
Dr. Reddy, for your this is the baseline angiogram. After that, we have done an FFR across the distal one, RFR, and it is highly significant across both.
Okay.
Right? That means the proximal lesion has not been interrogated. We have considered it as a single lesion. We did not do a pullback. And after that, we have interrogated with an OCT the whole segment. And after small balloon dilatation, because we weren't getting enough clearance in the middle AD. Next, can we see the next angiogram? That is, we also did an
proximal LAD.
flex.
What's the OCT showing there? The lumen area?
That's what we just showed you. We tried to show you that it was 3.9 millimeters square in the osteoproximal LAD.
Okay.
And it was
1.7 square.
Actually, left main is practically non-existent.
Yeah, that's what. It's almost like a no left main.
No left main almost. very
almost independent.
Very short left main.
OCT is showing a short left main, about 2
Yes.
millimeters or so of a left main.
Yes. Yeah.
And thereafter. So next angiogram. So we did first an FFR for the circumflex, which was negative. Next.
Yes.
Then we interrogated the entire LED. Next. After a small balloon dilatation, then we have interrogated this. We used a guide liner, minus. Yeah, this is next, plus. This is the balloon to enable us to deliver the OCT catheter. Next. Yeah, so that's the OCT. So you can see the guide liner to enable us to interrogate the ostial LED. Next. Yeah, next. We did it in 2 segments. That's sometimes something that we do so that you get very, very clear and good pictures.
Yes.
Next. Yeah. No, go back, previous one. So now we saw a highly fibrocalcific lesion. So now that we've decided, we are definitely going to stent the distal segment. So any points of view on how we should prepare it? We have seen the morphology of that lesion. You can show that particular lesion again. Come back, distal lesion. Yeah. Can we see the OCT? Yeah, that's the little dissection caused by our balloon. Go distal, Jagdish, around 10 or so. Fantastic. So I think the house can see how plate from here, just plate. And freeze when I tell you.
Yeah, dissection.
Yeah. So that's the dissection cause. And you can see almost circumferential calcium, which is about 400 microns or so thick at its maximal level. So, and the length is approximately 20. If we look at the distal part, the normal segment is about 30 millimeters away. And we have measured it media to media about 275 or so. Yeah, 23 was in the mid segment and 30 is the distal segment where we reach up to the bend. So any preparation, any thoughts on how to prepare this? And then we'll show you what we did.
Because it's a very thick fibrocalcific, you can do the cutting balloon or you can try open NC also. These are the 2 good options because it is very tough.
So, right, sir. So that's what we did. We are very proud, very happy to say that Dr. Sridhar has the same point of view. So we used a cutting balloon, size 1:1, 275/10. Next. It was a little difficult to deliver. So the guide liner, which is still there, was used to deliver. Go back, previous one. You can see that we have taken the guide liner in and then delivered the cutting balloon through that. Next, and then cut. You can see that it didn't give way very easily. It has gone with a little bit of effort. Next. We've gone to about 18 atmospheres with the cutting balloon. We find it quite safe if you just follow the important things of going up slowly. Next. And the distal segment as well. Next. Then we have done what we used to be very fond of, that is balloon palpation of the lesion. Then we have taken a 275/20. Next. And just palpated to see if we are able to dilate it fully. Next. So this seems to be dilating quite well without any problem in 2 views. That's what we tested, and we are planning to put in a 275/28 or 33, yeah. From the distal segment up to the proximal segment. Next. Yeah, that's enough. So we're just going to look at an angiogram, decide our landing zones along with the OCT and deliver the stent. Any comments from the faculty while we work?
Absolutely fine. It's a beautiful strategy. Very nice demonstration of fibrocalcific.
Let's do one RO cranial again.
What was the size of the scoring balloon? What was the size of scoring balloon which you used?
This was a cutting balloon, sir, 275/10.
It was a cutting balloon, 275.
That's a cutting balloon.
Ajay, is it the Wolverine you are using now or the old Flextome?
Sir, we have still talking to Boston to give us the Wolverine. This is still the old Flextome.
Okay.
That is why we needed to use the guide liner. The Wolverine is supposed to be much more trackable. I've used it only once and I was very happy with the quality of the balloon. Yeah,
advantage of Wolverine, it has got a non-compliant balloon. That is the main advantage.
So I think we'll take a 33 and go up to this bend here. What do you say? And come back to the proximal. Will it be adequate?
In this view, the ostium lesion looks very tight.
Correct,
See.
but we can't fight with the OCT, sir. We have
But
done
OCT real imaging.
imaging.
OCT is showing
And we've got
3.9.
imaging also. I mean, we've got physiology also. So at the end of the stenting, we're going to do the physiology again. We'll do one more imaging to see what we get. I mean, there's no point in using them if we're not going to believe them. So
I also agree with you. So I think definitely the long distal lesion you are going to stent, and most likely once you check the RFR or DFR at the end, it will be definitely positive, and you will be landing up putting a stent up to the ostium. I'm sure
I
of
think
that.
that's perfectly all right. We don't mind. That's perfectly all right.
Yeah.
So let us see whether our prediction is 33 में हो जाएगा. एक AP caudal दिखा है. Come to caudal. Shall we do it right?
3.9 square mm. Most oftenly, FFR will be negative based upon the studies, because the area is saying 3.9 square mm. So that lesion is a borderline. It has to be interacted with the FFR before doing the stenting. I think that's the right strategy. Otherwise, if it is negative, then doing without checking, if we are doing stenting, the MACE rate we are going to increase.
Dr. Sridhar Kasturi, I would like to raise the issue of a focal lesion like this in an osteal LAD. Sir has a wide approach to measure the RFR. I think we have to measure. My feeling is we have to measure the
We don't
FFR
need
because it's a focal lesion. So focal critical FFR force over RFR. Does the panel agree?
है ना? So यहाँ से length कितना?
Dr. Vaidis.
See, once the distal LAD lesion is done, I think the baseline RFR and RFR you are using here, you can check that. At the same time, you can do a pullback as well. If we are working on the same RFR wire, you can put another wire as well, and then do a pullback, because a pullback is going to be very useful for this assessing the osteoproximal LAD.
Dr. Sridhar, would you use
more with the longer lesions? Focal lesions, many times it may be shorter lesions, maybe negative, but whether criteria for stenting only whether it's positive or negative. They have not mentioned whether short lesion or long.
Length is coming to be a little longer. No?
Longer lesions, angiography they may be borderline, but usually when you interact with FFR, these lesions will be positive. Focal lesions usually angiographically looks very tight, but still FFR may be negative.
275, 23?
And 3.9 lesion before stenting, because it is near the left main bifurcation. Suppose if the the side branch and the main extension, before doing stenting, MACE rate is going to be more. Before doing focal stenting, please always better to check the FFR. Otherwise, if you are not checking FFR for border lesion, if you are doing MACE rate, we are going to increase. That's the reason. Even I think angle is looking very nice. Left main area is very good. Even if you cover the osteal LAD also fine, because it's a short left main, you can't do the part. Even if you are doing part, half of the balloon has to be into the aorta. That way you can do it, but don't overstretch too much. And at the same time, if you are doing the kissing, then it will be a problem, because L6 is perfectly normal, and these are the difficulties. I think angle is good, left main is good. Even you can get away with better to go with osteal stenting.
Yeah, ready for a SNM? We need to pull back a millimeter, I feel. Right, let us come to cranial now.
I think that's nice.
Little puff. Yeah, ready for SNM?
Sir, Dr. Sridhar, shall we go to the next lab by the time sir finishes the stenting?
Much movement, no?
We can switch, sir.
There's too much movement.
Ajay?
We need to hold it in
Dr.
place.
Ajay?
Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah,
we'll put the screen to one more OCT and FFR and come back. We'll be ready for you.
Yeah, sure.
So we are with Dr. Sharath now.
Yeah.
Sharath sir, we are with you now. Back.
Hmm.
And calcium, pragmally. Yeah. Calcium is there.
Yeah, go further distal.
Dr. Sharad sir, can you hear us?
So we are with you.
Yeah. Just give me one moment. We have just
No
now
problem,
done the
sir. We are with
OCT. You must be seeing the OCT picture, right?
OCT showing a severe, significant calcium.
Yeah, you are able to see the picture. Okay, fine.
Calcific clot.
Come more.
That's the reason I think you are facing difficulty in crossing with the balloon and.
Sir, Dr. Sridhar Kasturi, meanwhile, you can explain to the audience is it a calcific nodule?
This is the tightest portion.
Sir?
Where is the ostium diagonal?
Practically looking like a. Yeah. Let us see the entire
Some of
lesion.
them, yeah, we will show you the entire thing. Go back from the beginning. You show.
Go to distal.
Yeah.
Go to
Go to
zero.
go to the LM. There you go. Yeah.
LM is absolutely fine.
Sridhar, you can tell your opinion on this.
Yeah, sure. Left main is looking very fine. And now move to bifurcation. LCX ostium is really good. Go to the, even LED ostium is looking, though some hyperplasia is there, but its luminal is absolutely good, 3.5, and the diameter 3.5, luminal area around 7.3. Then move. No, suddenly jump. This is the area of calcium. 40. You move from 40. Yeah, just move slowly.
Slow. Yeah.
There are some macrophages, some lipid block is there in this area. Just move proximally. You see, you can plenty of macrophages in the 12 to almost that is 3 o'clock. Then you can see the bright shimmy border along that is 9 to 12. There is also macrophage deposition. That is a lipid block. You can't see the even the poor penetration of the light. Then move slowly. Lower quarter, you can see the fibrous block. You can move slowly. Move slowly. This is a lipid-rich block. But you go distally, it's a calcified segment. Move. This is also plenty of macrophages.
Okay. Keep coming.
Yeah, you can see the areas of spotty calcification in between. You can see the cholesterol crystal also. Just if you go slightly back, this is a spotty calcification area. Then you can see along the guide wire, there is a cholesterol crystal, that whitish line. That is a cholesterol crystal. That indicates high proneness for ruptures. Like if you are seeing the cholesterol crystal, macrophages, spotty calcification.
Yeah, go more.
Just move distally. Move. Yes. Now you are seeing the deep calcium. You can see the thick calcific, the thick cap with deep calcium at luminal side, and this side superficial calcium. Go slowly. The calcium is almost like a nearly 270 degrees angle. I can see. Go move. See tight narrowing with fibrocalcific lesion. Move distal. You see almost 270 degrees calcification. The tight narrowing of the side branch. That must be a diagonal. Go next move. Move slowly. Then one side you can see the calcium and areas of fibrosis. That is a calcific area. Move slowly.
Is the top one plaque rupture? You can see at the 12 o'clock position.
Yeah, that is not the plaque rupture. Now slightly move.
Go further.
Yeah, here you can see some discontinuation of the endothelial border. Yeah, move slowly. This side you can see the calcific nodule. You can see very projecting a nodule. That's a calcific nodule with back scattering.
Sridhar, if you see this something like 10 o'clock position, what is that abnormality? 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock.
There is some, maybe because the balloon was used. Maybe.
Yeah, balloon is used, might have produced dissection.
Move slowly. Yes, slowly. Thick fibrotic block.
What is this?
Yeah, this must be a plaque rupture.
Plaque rupture is there. It's 3 o'clock.
You can see this is the plaque rupture area. Move slowly.
What is this?
This area is a calcium.
Thing.
Lot of calcium.
Okay.
It's a diffuse
Go further distal.
diffuse atheroma. You see, almost 270 degrees calcium is there.
Yeah.
Arc you can see very, very clearly, and the calcium thickness will be more than 0.5 mm. Move slowly. This patient requires open NC minimum. Actually, plaque modification is definitely required for this patient. We can move slowly. Otherwise, under expansion is chances are very, very high.
Is it thrombus there, sir?
No, not thrombus. This is the thrombus. This is in the center thrombus,
Then,
but other sides calcium you can see.
yeah, that's what I was asking.
Move.
There is the thrombus also, no, at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, thrombus is there. Thrombus is there.
Hmm.
Yeah, move. Yeah. Here also dissection plane, that fibrous block dissected because the balloon induced. Yeah, definite dissection. Almost medial dissection you can see very clearly. This is the medial dissection. There is significant dissection. Go distally.
Hmm?
Once
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see dissection, chance of opening is high. Yeah, this is you can see classic medial dissection. Thick fibrotic block. This is a ruptured. This is a dissection plane. Okay, move. Still, this thick fibrotic block again. This had some deep calcium.
Sridhar,
Yeah,
in this patient, because we already used a lot of contrast and patient of low body weight, we used a saline only as the contrast. And you can see picture is very good.
yeah, very.
We didn't use contrast. We used the saline only.
Tetrama involving the entire LAD with areas of fibrocalcific lesions and some areas of fibrolipid block and some block rupture. Even calcium nodule was seen. So this needs adequate plaque modification prior to implanting the device. Otherwise, the chance of under expansion is very high. Mace rate may be more. I think at least minimum patient requires open NC high pressure inflations.
Okay, we will now once again make an attempt to get into the diagonal and see whether we can. But I think given the complexity of the case, expecting to do a successful, basically we are not able to wire that big branch of the diagonal. We'll make one more attempt. In case you have Ajay Swami, some discussion is left, we can come back to you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Give me that wire
Dr.
again.
There was one question from the audience whether the viability testing was done for the
No,
LAD.
no, it was not done.
But I think based upon the ECG, R waves are reasonably preserved.
Yeah.
And,
No, this patient came within few days, and this hospital doesn't have the facility for viability testing. And anyway, the recent myocardial infarction. Okay, 1 minute.
ECG wise, there would be significant viability because there is no loss of R wave in V5, V6, and QS complex. There is no classic QS complex V1 to V6.
Yeah.
I think Dr. Shailendra Singh, anybody wants to comment? Dr.
Reddy.
Center the guiding catheter. Center of that.
Dr. Ajay, yeah?
No, sir, we are with Dr. Sharath still.
Okay. Anybody wants to? Dr. YBC, are you there?
Yeah, I saw that. See, as you have shown, densely calcified all around it. Need calcium modification therapies, but unfortunately, the vessel size is not big enough for IVLs. So you have to go in with an OPN, prepare the bed well.
Yes.
At the same time, the diffuse and small caliber of the vessel being probably it is an acute and chronic lesion.
Yeah.
That is the diffuse lesion is there. That's why the difficulties in the diagonal as well. So maybe the history was not totally representative. So you have to prepare the bed well and then put a stent and
The
then.
angiogram is so deceptive. Angiogram wise, we are not anticipating. We are unable to see the calcium.
Yeah. Can you go back once? Can you go back, Sini?
Considering the chance of no reflow, what
Give 1,000 units. Okay. No.
Here
See,
is less
plus.
because only
plus.
lipid blocks,
Plus.
necrotic material, there
Plus.
is no chance of slow flow. No.
Plus. We actually dilated with initially with a 1.5 balloon and then a 2.5 almost up to the distal point into the distal LAD. Next scene. Next. Before putting the OCT, we used a 2.5. Okay, let us see whether, yeah, center it, please. Okay, there is some dissection distally also.
Yeah.
And at the site of the original lesion, where it occluded, there is a considerable dissection, which we have seen in, of course, the OCT. So what we will do, we will come back to you after a while.
Ravi.
Small test.
Ravi, are you there?
Yeah.
Now we are with Ajay, we are back. You can.
No, I think that is because it is detecting. All right, sir, we are back with you.
Yeah.
So what we have done, we had measured our normal to normal segment. We just deployed the stent, post-dilated it at high pressure with a 275 and did an OCT. Can we just see, we measured it on the OCT. There was a little difficulty in landing it perfectly because we were trying to be too precise.
Yeah.
So, but I think we have managed to get away. And little bit of, we didn't get good clearance. We are 1 millimeter into our that ectatic segment. And obviously there the expansion is not good. There's a little bit of poor clearance of dye here. So we'll re-expand this segment, no problem. But the rest of the stent appears to be fairly all right. I was more worried about the distal segment because there's a lot of plaque distally and we didn't want to land up in that plaque. But I think we've just about managed it.
Yeah, nicely expanded throughout this.
Yeah, so I think it's expanded well. Just the proximal part, probably I'm going to take a small 3.5 and try and oppose the proximal end in this 2 millimeter, and then I will re-equalize and then do a physiology for the ostial LAD. Does that meet with approval of everybody?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. It's a very good strategy because small balloon upside.
So give me a 3.58 or 12. And let's come to a caudal view, this AP caudal view, so that I can see the proximal half of the stent. So I feel the distal half is very good on the OCT. Distal half of the stent is very good on the OCT. There is no problem.
More than 4.5 square mm.
So I think we've got very fairly decent areas here.
Yeah.
So 3.5, huh? 6 chalega? 6 is perfect.
Sridhar Kasturi, you can talk about what you would look for post-OCTs, what parameters you would say that the
post-OCT, what mainly I will look for, what is stent is well expanded, well opposed or not, and any medial edge dissection is there or not. If the medial edge dissection is there, is it more than 60-degree angle? And length also I'll see, is it more than 2 mm? If that is significant, then I will cover with
landed in the right segment.
If the mala position is there, the proximally because he's
otherwise to do that whole thing, you would have even 38
size balloon and opposite valve. And remaining everywhere as per the recent ESC guidelines, distally that is reference distal landing zone, proximal landing zone, and stented area. Nowhere the stent area, main stent area should be less than 4.5 square mm when we are using the OCT. But when you are using the IVUS, it should be more than 5.5 square mm. So this is the target.
This is an acute force, isn't it?
Usually mace rate will be
Let's
low.
do a stent boost here.
Distal landing zone should be more than 4.5 square mm, proximally 4.5 square mm, and throughout the stent itself. But at the same time, you should also
make it 50.
90% of the distal luminal area when you are seeing the distal half of the stent and the proximal half of the stent, you see with the proximal reference zone, is it more than 90%?
So let us see.
So if you are putting a very small vessel,
that's this has 1 millimeter overhang. But the proximal thing is so big that there's no problem.
That time you have to match with the distal reference zone. Suppose you are stenting 2.25 mm diameter vessel, you may get 3.5, 3.9 like that. So cover at least achieve 80% of the mean luminal area.
That is all stented segment.
That is very important. But if it less than 70%, that is definitely under expansion. Needs to be dilated with upsized balloon and corrected until you get at least 80% of the reference zones.
8, 10, 12.
Also look for any tissue prolapse, any stent thrombus is there. These things are very important. A small tissue prolapse will not cause any problem. Larger tissue prolapse, difficult to, when you dilate more, it may be more, but more often tissue prolapse seen with the ACS and STEMI patient.
Deeply.
Dr. Reddy, you have anything to add to what you would look at post-OCT?
I think Sridhar has nicely exemplified all the features, expansion, opposition, the circularity, oval index, ovalization index, the geographic miss if it is anything there, especially distal part. Here we might have to look at that again. And tissue prolapse and dissections, we know which are significant, which are not. So
what I'm going to do
and the measurements are very
re-equalize
important.
it.
Yeah.
Dr. Shailendra?
Dr. Shailendra,
Wait, let me first clear it off. Saline. Mrs. Flush. ये दे दो. No, you don't have to do that. We just have to re-equalize it. उसको नहीं हाथ लगाना. Off नहीं किया.
Posting the pictures.
Hello.
Dr. Sridhar always bang on all the recent trials. So now he will tell us, I think he's itching to tell us about the defined PCI. And sir, over to you.
Okay.
Ravi, sir, you are disconnected, sir, or?
No, ma'am. I think everybody's.
Yeah, I'm just clearing it of contrast. Contrast clear kar raha.
Dr. YVC, you can comment.
I think there's some problem with the FFR measurements. I think they're getting the distal more than the PD is more than PA in between. I think once it is done, I think if the RFR is more than 0.89, I think that settles the issue once and for all. But because you have an OCT, of course, you'll be doing the osteal. You said that the osteoproximal was around 3.9, which is good enough. If the RFR also is good enough, probably we should leave it unattended. We should not touch it anymore. I would accept. I would agree with your
But this value is fine only, no, Dr. YVC?
This is fine. Now it is coming up well. It was showing initially PD was more than PA, some calibration issue. Now it's showing up well.
So we had disconnected the, that sometimes happens, you get a drift. So they had disconnected the, equalize kar diya? Equalize nahi kiya. It is already back. I've already pulled it back. So you, equalize. So whenever you exceed 20 minutes with the same wire, we are going to have a little bit of drift. Now your EQ is 8, no? So we are fine then. Let's go to cranial, please. Let's
so
go to
you're going to re-enter again, yeah.
So we have re-equalized the wire, as you see. I don't know if you can see the cine. We have re-equalized the wire.
Yeah.
Little puff. Little puff.
It is showing a significance, right? Let us see.
No, not at standardized.
So let's just wait for the contrast to get washed out. This is the resting PDPA. Let's wait for the contrast to get washed out. Dr. Reddy is very keen to stent the osteomycete.
I have a hunch that it is significant lesion.
Yeah, negative.
Let us
see.
It's a negative.
Dr. Sridhar Kasturi, all your vulnerability features, lipid plaque and all are there at the ostium, sir.
Wait, let it wait. Just wait for a minute.
The resting PDPA post-contrast, if it comes to 0.83, that will also settle the issue, or an RFR 0.89 as well.
No, this primarily anticipated it will be a negative because 3.9 square mm primarily fibrocalcific lesion. It's not a macrophage; those were not there. This is the fibrocalcific lesion. Whereas Sharath case, some areas where the luminaries are good, that is different. But
I thought there was a lipid plaque there, sir. That's why I was asking you.
This is definitely more fibrocalcific lesion. What do you say? It's a thick fibrocalcific lesion. And the area was 3.9 square mm.
Yes.
And that is not in favor. Not in favor. I anticipated because if it is many studies 3.5, 2.75, 2, each study quoted like a cutoff value 1.7. Some studies quoted 1.75. But
for osteal LED, how much are you using the cutoff, Sridhar? for osteal LED.
Usually
OCT.
it is very critical, like
Is there any difference for osteal LED and any other segment, sir?
Otherwise, 2.5 to 3.5, I always cross check.
So this is our resting PDPA.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely fine.
that's good. Yeah.
All right. So let's do an RFR now.
Good.
Negative.
So after
Actually,
that,
this
we'll
is
do
a
a
very
we'll do
beautiful
pullback
case
as well.
to illustrate the importance of
You
physiology.
can do
like
the
benefit
RFR
in
pullback as well. I think once if it is
Yeah, we're
above
going to do that. We're going to
0.89,
do that. We're going to do that.
this is good.
Are we ready for the pullback, Jagdish?
Would any of you measure the FFR, or are you happy with the RFR?
RFR fine. Once it is a resting FFR is that much value. If it is borderline, you can like a 0.89 to 0.91, then you can do FFR and prove it.
There was a jump there, and
Yeah, there's
angiographically
definitely
you might have seen
stenosis
on the
at the
floor.
osteal LED, but whether it is significant, that's it. We can stop.
Yeah.
So our RFR,
0.92,
technically speaking, is more than 0.89, so it can be left.
It can be left.
but a jump of 0.92 to 0.97 was quite a big jump.
Yeah, that's correct. But however, when it is
But
non-ischemic,
overall value is not in favor.
so what is the opinion of the rest of the house? So Dr. Reddy has made it very clear. He said this FFR and all is all bunkum. We should not do it.
See, I would give more credence to the RFR jump there. A 0.5 points is considered, 0.05 points is considered quite significant in the define PCI as well. Of course, if the baseline itself is less than 0.89 is a different issue, but in the presence of a disease which is angiographically appearing important, I accept that stenting that area is a challenge, technical challenge, because you will
No,
be
there is no technical challenge. We have a guideliner in place and we can beautifully put a stent there. There's no problem. The issue is not whether it can be done. The issue is whether it should be done.
I think this, see, if we do the pullback, we should be giving credence to this jump. What do you say?
Yeah. So let us do an FFR as well. We will try and
I think
get every single parameter to prove, what
I
is
think
the
that's a
correct
good
thing to do.
strategy. Yes.
And then
do that. Yeah.
AP cranial.
Then I think now it is a 10:28. Then we'll go to Dr. Ajay, you have shown a very nice case. I think you can conclude the case, but very nice strategy, like two tandem lesions in between normal or in between ectatic segment, how to tackle, importance of physiology and imaging, how it can guide. One of the advantages with the FFR, the MACE reduction is not, it's because of the reduction in the number of stents. I think this is a classic example where instead of going with the two stents, if he's going with one stent, and that is particularly involving the left main bifurcation, ostium, pinching, everything. I think he will do the FFR. After FFR, he will decide the strategy. But now we know the theme of the case, and a really beautiful case. Hearty congratulations for showing, and thank you very much for contributing. And finally, you can conclude something.
Excellent, sir. First of all, Dr. Sridhar, thank you very much for the opportunity. We much enjoyed the interaction, and I think we've all learned a bit as to how to use physiology in all three circulations. We've used it in all the three circulations in this particular patient, all the three vessels. When we are very, very clear when it is not to be done, and we are very, very clear when it is to be done. And we know that there are lots of ifs and buts in between in the gray zone. And those are the questions we are trying to answer. This is a work in progress. We'll continue to work. And I'll get back to you on what we find on the FFR and what decision we finally made. Thank you very much for your inputs, Dr. Reddy. And Dr. Sridhar, once again, thank you, Dr. Sujata also. Really a pleasure having interacted with all of you. Very, very kind of you to give us the opportunity.
Excellent.
From the whole team of Cath Lab of Command Hospital, Bangalore. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Ravi, just to go to Dr. Sharat Chandra, Cath Lab.
Let's go to epicranial one. Yeah.
Dr. Sharat, with you now.
Hi, Sridhar.
Now Dr. PC Rath is also there with us. Good morning, sir.
1 minute. You do one thing.
Very good morning, sir, Dr. PC Rath. I think you have to
Remove
unmute,
this.
sir.
We went. Give me torpor on. No.
Maybe you tell Dr. PC Rath to unmute.
Hold this.
Good morning, Sridhar. Very nice
Yes,
case.
good morning, sir. Most welcome, sir.
Yeah, Sunday morning is beautiful cases you have organized. That is the next is Sarath case, I think is showing, no?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we are still struggling to get into that branch. We left that LED for the time being. We have dilated that LED quite a bit from top to bottom. Can you give the small test? Yeah, we will. Okay, we will try to dilate that ostium of the diagonal and see if we can, that will allow us to engage, enter the branch of the diagonal. Okay, so we will remove this other branch. Yeah.
Dr. Sharad, this is Dr. Ajay.
Yes. What's your suggestion?
Good to hear. We are done, sir. We are just watching.
I
the
know.
work.
I was hearing in between.
Dr. Sharad, what we'll go to the second session.
Yeah.
In between, we can come back to you.
Yeah. We'll do that.
Can I make one suggestion for him, sir?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Sir, if you put a microcatheter into your LED, leave your main wire there, put the microcatheter into LED beside it, take a XTR or a coated wire and make a U. Leave the wire there, pull the microcatheter back, and then hook the diagonal on the way back. That might be useful.
Okay. We will. What we will do? No, that's a very good suggestion. In fact, others also said the same thing. We will come back to you once we have done to an extent.
Yeah.
Right.
Madam, are you there? Thank you, Dr. Sujata, for moderating this session. I thank Dr. Shailendra Singh, Dr. Vijay Kumar Reddy, Dr. YVC Reddy for your excellent contribution in the form of comments and suggestions.
Dr. Sharad sir, we are back with you.
Yeah.
So, a lot of drama took place here while we were doing this. Yeah. We are almost done. As you could guess,
result, I think. It is showing very nicely.
We could not enter that ideal branch of the diagonal, so we left it and we stented the LED because there are areas of dissection distally. We have put a long stent, 2.5 into 38, and proximally across the original site of occlusion and across the diagonal, we put a 2.75 into 28. Okay, and show the OCT post. The side branch flow looked good. Actually, what happened in our quest to somehow engage that branch of diagonal correctly, we dilated the proximal portion of the diagonal, which was tightly narrowed. Maybe that helped. Whatever, after we stented the entire length of the LED, the diagonal flow is still intact and no reduction of flow, in fact. So now show this second OCT. After that, patient is getting restless. It took a long time, but anyway, quickly go through this. We can then show them the final shot and come out. She developed no reflow after the stents, and the no reflow, we gave her nitroglycerin initially with a marked fall of pressure. Then we had to give her all drugs to improve her systemic pressure. Then after she stabilized, we gave adenosine, once again with hypotension. Then finally, we went distal vessel into distal LED, and there we gave nicorandil. Okay, we are yet to see the effect of nicorandil, but can you show them the OCT? Show it. I'm waiting for that. Okay, this is the, yeah, you can, yeah. You let them see. Yeah. Sridhar, you are there?
Yeah, we can see that couple of
Yes, Dr.
couple
V.T.
of
Shah.
small opposed stents at the proximal end, but those are only 2 or 3 dots can be still left alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact,
Good areas,
we were suspecting
8.4.
that most of the stents may not expand, but then except at couple of here there may be a small prolapse or malopposition at one point. Yeah, plaque protrusion is there in this, and yeah, but otherwise most of the stent has expanded very well, with lumen areas coming proximally to about nearly 9 centimeters. Now it is 7 point. So keep going like this. We did not, superimpose one stent with the other. It is almost like, just side by side, but there's only one point in the distal LAD where the stent is underexpanded with a calcific nodule there. Where is that point? Yeah. So here the stent has not taken that classical spherical shape which it should take. But
more than the shape is the area. Area is low, less than 3.
Yeah, less than 3, almost 60%.
Yeah.
50+% under expansion. Yeah, go finally further distal.
You can see the calcium also there.
Yeah.
Yeah, once again here the stent has expanded. Okay.
Yeah.
What are the stent sizes? Distal stent size?
Distal is 2.5 into 38. And after that, proximally across the original occlusion, it is 2.75 into 28.
So let us see the reference distally. You just showed 3 point something.
Distally, yeah. How much it is come?
2.54.
2.59.
Yeah.
More than this stent's shape, our concern here was her no reflow. So we went on giving drugs, and let us take one final shot. We actually dilated the entire length of the stent separately with NC balloons to about 24 atmospheres in the distal LAD, and proximal 2.75 stent we used a 3 millimeter balloon and went to 24. So this is about the best possible one can do, except that short portion in the distal LAD. Rest of the stent is expanded very well. Take this. Let me see 1 second where the guide is. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Wire also has come out. Yeah. Test, please. Okay. I think we have to accept this. Whatever. Move the table. Okay. Sini. Yeah, I think in the presence of this kind of no reflow, with despite all the drugs and maximal expansion, we have to accept this result.
Yeah.
The patient is actually almost 3 hours on the table, and a lot of heparin has been given. We will come out of this, Sridhar.
Yeah. But very tough case, nicely managed.
I'm not sure about that. The only thing is we have not harmed the patient.
Yeah, not harmed, and the diagonal is very well patent. Even OCT also showing the side branch ostia is very well seen. It's patent.
Yeah. The no deflow, if it had not occurred, things would have been better. Probably a lot of that area, as somebody was asking, maybe a lot of area is actually damaged, and that may be the reason why we didn't get no reflow. We gave in nitroglycerin, we gave adenosine, we gave nicorandil, maximal tolerated doses. So nothing more you can do. Our pressure is very good now. It's almost 150.
Yeah, but we can give continuous for next 48 hours at least.
We can give nitroglycerin, nicorandil infusion for her.
Even slow flow, like a 2B3B also is helpful.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. 2 of the agents we can give, nicorandil infusion and tirofiban infusion. Our systolic pressure is 160 now.
Nitroprusside intra procedure is very effective. And
even
I think that's the best among the lot.
Correct. The bad thing was even with nitroglycerin, she had a very severe hypotension. So I did not go further.
Only
than,
the area
nitroglycerin.
concerned is 23, I think, between 20 and 25.
Sorry.
That underexpanded area only, the 23 and 25, I think.
Yeah. There, yeah.
Yeah, this
Flat
is the
area,
tough
but you know,
calcium.
I don't want to further do anything there because with no reflow like this,
Yeah.
this is not responsible for that.
Yeah.
So what do you say? This
Yes,
under expansion is not responsible for the no reflow. It's more because of
No, not at all. Not
yeah.
at all.
Future
So that's what
stent
in the
thrombus.
presence
Yeah.
of this no reflow, best thing is to leave her alone because
It's
what
the
it
clinical
means for outcome is,
situation. It's the clinical situation of ACS, post ACS,
Yeah.
which is responsible.
yeah.
And we have done a lot of high pressure dilatations
Yeah,
because
they
of that
also would have
calcium.
contributed. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because of that calcium, we have done a lot of high pressure dilatation.
Yeah.
Actually,
So I think
antivirus we
maybe
didn't expect
next
that much
48 hours, some vasodilators and some 2B3
Yeah.
antagonists sometime should
Yeah.
improve in the next 48, 72 hours.
Correct.
And you have a very good pressure. That's a good plus side.
Yeah. That's a good thing about it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can give maximum doses of vasodilatation.
Correct.
Yeah.
The point where the original vessel occluded, we thought it may not expand, but there it has expanded very well. Surprisingly, the point of underexpansion is much lower down, which in the presence of course, we couldn't assess initially because of the relative severe no reflow. So anyway, thank you very much for all you
Thank you.
guys.
Yeah.
Long time since we had Vitisha's voice on this microphone.
No. Thanks, Sarath.
Yeah.
And thanks to your whole team to be there on Sunday for this live demo and teaching us a lot of points.
No, it's a very good case. A case which we thought is simple and easy turned out to be rather challenging.
Difficult
We
and
thought we
complex.
should be able to do a decay crush for the side branch, but we find it, say other unexpected events have occurred in this.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sridhar, for
Thank
giving
you.
this opportunity.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Stay
Sharon.
safe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Bye. Bye.
Thanks to the team. Yeah.
I think we can conclude.
Should we conclude this session?
Yeah.
I thank all the expert panelists for being present on the Sunday morning and giving their wonderful inputs. And
No point in
thanks to Dr.
discussion.
Sridhar Kasturi for calling us all in. And we had a great learning session. And
Yes.
thank you all. Thank you all.
Police
Thank you,
capital,
Sridhar.
Thank you very much,
infusion,
sir. All of you be on board.
Hmm.
Take an active role in discussing your valid points.
Where is that balance?
To all of us.
Yeah.